Hello and welcome to this next Tableau Made Easy video, and more specifically this next video on calculated fields. In the last video we discussed different ways to create calculated fields in the first place. Then we talked about and put into action some nice and simple but still very powerful and useful calculated fields, and we did this at a row level. In this video we are going to expand on all of that, and this is where calculated fields really come into their own, and it all surrounds this idea called level of detail, or L.O.D, or more technically what are called level of detail or L.O.D expressions. And these L.O.D expressions are simply just ways for us to control the level or the granularity that we want our calculation to exist at. And while that might not make perfect sense right now, hopefully it will when we run through some examples and you see it all in action. So the first scenario I want to lay out is that here on screen, following on from the last tutorial, we can see all of our earthquakes individually. So we're at row or earthquake level. We've got each earthquake's unique ID, and we have the corresponding magnitude over on the right. We also have our CF magnitude calculated field in the middle there, which was simply calculating our magnitude squared. Now, we don't need that anymore, so let's actually get rid of our CF magnitude field. So I'm going to drag that away. And then let's actually remove it. So let's go up to CF magnitude here. Let's click on the drop down and then delete. So for this tutorial, which remember is going to be focused on this concept called level of detail. Let's say we wanted to work out how powerful each earthquake in our data set was relative to some fixed magnitude. So maybe we wanted to calculate the ratio or the percentage that each individual earthquake's magnitude was compared to the most powerful earthquake in our whole set. In other words, we want to take each of these magnitudes that we've got on screen here and divide them by the maximum magnitude of them all, which would be quite useful as it would essentially help us normalize what a big or a small earthquake was. So let's have a go at doing this now. Let's see if we can create this fixed maximum magnitude that we need. For this, let's create a calculated field. So let's go and right click and then create calculated field. And let's call this max magnitude. And I'm just going to close this help box here. And then in the main logic box, let's try something like max and then tab to autocomplete. So we can do all sorts of aggregate functions here too. So we've done max here, but we could use sum or minimum or average, count distinct, etc., etc. For our maximum within the parentheses, let's put magnitude. And once we've done that, down the bottom of the box, Tableau is telling us that this formula is completely fine. In other words, there are no logical errors. So with that, let's hit OK to create it. And now that we've done that, let's drag that onto our view. And well, this is a bit odd. We were expecting this column to perhaps show us the maximum overall magnitude, and then we could use that to create our ratio or our percentage between each earthquake and that maximum. But it seems like it's not really worked. And the reason that it's not worked as we'd hoped is that our view here is currently working at the ID level of detail. So Tableau is indeed taking the maximum magnitude, but it's doing so for each ID or for each row. So the maximum of 6 in that first row is 6, the maximum of 7 is 7, etc. We need to explicitly tell Tableau that we want our max magnitude field to be at a different level of detail. We want to tell it to ignore the level of detail of the current view. So let's get our hands dirty and look at how we would do this in practice. And then let's stop and talk more about the finer details. To start with, let's create ourselves a new calculated field for this. So again, right click and then create calculated field. And this time, I'm going to call this max magnitude fixed. And now let's start building our level of detail expression for maximum magnitude from scratch. And to set all of this up, let's take a step back from Tableau and let's take a look at a bit of a template that we can keep in mind whenever we're building up LOD or level of detail expressions. So to start with, a level of detail expression is always surrounded by curly braces. So we'll need to remember those when we build our expression out in a moment. The next thing we need to specify is what type of LOD expression we want. And in Tableau, there are 3 types that we can use. We have fixed, we have include, and we have exclude. We will be using fixed in our examples here as it is by far the most common. After we have specified that type, we need to tell Tableau the level we indeed want to fix our logic at. So we could fix things at overall level, in other words, the maximum earthquake magnitude across all earthquakes in our data. Or if we want to fix our logic at a specified level, in other words, perhaps we want to get the maximum magnitude fixed at location level or location and location broad level, then we can specify that here in the dimensions list. Now, if we want to fix our logic at the overall level, then we can actually just not specify anything here. We can just leave this list out altogether, and you'll see what I mean with that very soon. After our dimensions have been specified, the next bit of required syntax is a colon. And this is what separates our specifications around the type of expression we're using in the level we want things done at, and the actual thing we are looking to fix, so the aggregation that we are working with. And that is exactly what comes after the colon here, the aggregation that we want. So this could be a sum or a count or an average, or in our case here, a maximum, as we are looking to calculate the maximum earthquake magnitude fixed at the overall level. So to very quickly recap what we've just spoken about, for an LOD expression, we've got curly braces encapsulating or surrounding everything. We specify the type of expression that we want to use, so either fixed, include, or exclude. We then specify a list of dimensions to fix at, then we put a colon, followed by the aggregation that we are wanting to apply. So back into Tableau, and let's do this. Let's start with our curly braces. Inside those, let's now specify what type of LOD expression we want. And because we want to essentially fix our maximum magnitude value so that it ignores the level of detail of our current view, the syntax that we use here is aptly named fixed. Now, after our fixed expression, this is where we would tell Tableau the level we want to fix our logic at. Since we are just looking to fix at the overall level, we're going to leave this out for now, meaning that the next thing we want to put in is a colon, and after the colon, let's put a space, and we want to specify our aggregation. So for us, let's put max, and then within those parentheses, let's put magnitude. And that is everything that we need. So let's see how we get on. Let's hit OK. And then let's drag our new calculated field, here it is here, let's drag that onto our view as well. And I'm just going to extend our width a little bit here. And look at that, that is exactly what we wanted. We have the overall maximum magnitude across all earthquakes fixed for us to work with. So what we could do now is create another calculated field that calculates the ratio of each individual earthquake compared to that maximum. Now, before we do that, let's actually delete our original max magnitude calculated field, as that is fairly redundant. So I'm going to drag that off. And then in the list of columns here, let's click the drop down and then delete. Once we've done that, let's create ourselves another calculated field. So again, right click and create calculated field. This time I want to call this max magnitude ratio. And here we're just going to reference the two variables that we want for our calculation. So let's do magnitude, so our row level earthquake magnitude values, divided by our max magnitude fixed field, which remember will be 129 every time. Let's hit OK, and then let's drag this onto our view as well. Perfect, so for each row, that is applying that calculation. So at the top there, 6 divided by the max of 129, and then 7 divided by the max of 129, and so on. Now, it is a little bit tricky to see this with only one decimal place being shown in that column, so we can always change that. If we go over to where it says measure values here below our marks card, if we right click on this third one here, which is our ratio variable, then we go down to format. In the drop down box here, if we click number custom, then we can change that to 2 decimal places. And you can actually see that it has done that by default as soon as we clicked into number custom. Anyway, good to refresh our memories on how to change the formatting like that. Cool, so let's close our formatting box by hitting the little X up the top here. And let's leave it there for now. And then in the next video, let's keep pushing on with this level of detail logic. And more specifically, let's talk about how we could fix our maximum magnitude logic at a specified level of detail rather than just at the overall level like we've done with ours up to this point. Well done on getting this far. This knowledge is so powerful in the world of Tableau, and the more we play around with all of this, the more it will sink in. So I'm looking forward to pushing further and further into it. As always, I will see you in the next video.